Good afternoon and good morning to our folks on the West Coast. Welcome to part two of our After Action Review webinar. I'm John Vance with Blue Card. Along with me is the Blue Card Program Manager, Josh Bloom, also Blue Card Lead Instructor, Chris Stewart, and Blue Card Lead Instructor, Eric Phillips, here for the webinar today. As we kick off, we just want to remind everyone that our registrations are open for our conference this year, the Blue Card Hazard Zone Conference, coming back to Sharonville, Ohio, in the Cincinnati area. That's September 30th through October 3rd. We have a number of pre-conference workshops this year, including a certification lab. So this is a chance for folks to come in and get certified for the first time by actual Blue Card lead instructors. So it gives you the opportunity to see how we do a class. Also, we'll have a critical thinking and strategic decision-making class with Eric and Chris this year. Looking forward to that. That's been a very popular offering on the road with many places that we've done it already, but we're going to bring that to the conference this year to allow everyone to attend. Of course, the Mayday workshop, where we not only talk about the Tarbor recovery process, the Mayday operations guide that Blue Card uses for Maydays, but we'll also look at some case studies and then allow you to do the simulations. So you're doing Blue Card Mayday sims. And then new this year is us doing a safety train the trainer. Our safety program ties the tactics right into Blue Card. And along with that, you have the opportunity to get a prop. So you can get a prop to bring back to your jurisdiction. And there's also some money savings for that. If you are interested in any of these classes or the general session that'll take place October 2nd and 3rd, please go to bshifter.com, get registered, and we really look forward to seeing everybody in Cincinnati this fall for the Blue Card Hazard Zone workshop. So today our intention is to get you more into the what this after action review system is. I think last time Eric and Chris did a really good job at telling us why we're doing it and really the purpose of the program. But today is going to be a little more of the nuts and bolts on how the system works, how to enter the information, maybe some of the troubleshooting things that we can help you with as you are trying to implement it into your organization. If you have any questions as we go along, we're going to try to address those as they come in. So feel free to use that question comment area, put your questions in there, and then I'll pop in when the questions are relevant or we have a little natural break for Eric, Chris, and Josh to help us with those questions that come in. So please enter your questions and we'll address those as we can. So I'll pass it over to Chris right now, who's going to actually kick the thing off and let us know what we're doing here today, Chris.
Yeah, so as we did so in our last webinar, talking about the why of having an AAR program actually matters, and then some standardization with it that comes along. So today it's just, I think what I want to talk about now is just a little bit of a review of that, and then some connection as we move forward as Eric breaks down the components of the after action review system. And so this is all based in standard Blue Card incident command components. And so that is our standard process with regards to managing incidents and the things that we should do every single time to start and manage and coordinate and ensure that we're doing a really good job on the fire ground, improving safety, improving accountability, all of those things, and honestly improving decision making if you're using it actually correctly. And so what we want to talk about today with the nuts and bolts is, before we do that, step back and say, all right, there are things that we're going to have to do as an organization, whether you are new to Blue Card or whether you have been doing Blue Card for a while, in establishing or maybe even reestablishing our incident command standards, having very clear expectations about this is the way we're going to run incidents. This is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do every single time. And then actually ensuring that everybody across the board, regardless of the position they're filling, whether it's company officer, chief officer, a responding chief officer, maybe even staff chief officers that, augment the response system, Everybody has to know and understand the system. Everybody has to be clear on how it works and what their role is inside that system. And then their ability or having the ability to actually then execute it. As organizations, we should be training on it. So when we come into our command training centers, whether we are doing the certification for the initial certification for all of our folks, or doing continuing education inside the system, it's absolutely necessary to be exercising to the standard. Whatever it is that we said we were going to be doing up front, our training then now has to match that. And so we're going to train, we're going to explain, we're going to educate, and then we're going to exercise and give our folks the ability to learn through doing, maybe learn through being successful, learn through making mistakes, but legitimately exercising, utilizing the system. And so that when we go out and do it for real, we have some level or some understanding of proficiency, what it actually should look like in a simulated environment, right? It's not the same as doing it for real. We totally get it, but I will say that there's clear evidence that utilizing these simulations increases our opportunity to be competent when we actually have to do it for real. So then that third part of our performance model here is monitoring performance. How are we actually doing? And this is where the AAR system actually comes to play with this. This gives us a standardized process within a system to be able to measure how we're performing from it or with our incident command system, and then to be able to look at it and break it down into smallest pieces and say, okay, yeah, here is what we're doing a good job with. And then allowing us some opportunity to figure out, okay, here's where we can get better. Here's how we're utilizing the system most effectively. And then if we really want to get deep into it, we can start saying, well, difficulties or successes early on in the incident command system probably led to these positive or maybe even negative decisions down the line during the incident. And so when we set things up, as the boss used to say, as the first 5 minutes goes, so goes the next 5 hours, then we're looking at how we're performing down the road. So when we take this AAR system, we plug it into our performance model or our change model or our accountability model, whatever we want to call it. It's a 4-step process. This third part of monitoring performance becomes really, really important. Once we complete that, then we can step into this managing accountability part. And what we mean by managing accountability, if we recognize we have difficulty or a challenge, or on the opposite side, we're doing a good job with something, how are we going to be accountable for it? Who's going to manage it, and who's going to communicate it? And what are we going to communicate? If we're not doing a good job, we need to go back to the standard. We need to review and evaluate that standard, make sure it's right, make sure it's just, and then reinforce it. And if the standard's right, or we can make adjustments in the training component of it, how we're teaching, how many times we're allowing folks to exercise it, then that puts us in a much better position to be successful there. And then it also appoints some personal accountability, if you will, or accountability for the people in this. Who's responsible for it? If we're doing a good job, who's responsible for telling everybody? There's an obvious connection there for the boss. Whoever the boss is of those folks need to know they're doing a good job, need to reinforce that. And then maybe more importantly, say why it was a good job. Because it was just dumb luck. We can't train to dumb luck. There's no dumb luck built into our standard. And so we need to be able to do that. And then when we're not doing what we need to do, there needs to be somebody that says, okay, I'm going to take some responsibility for it. We'll evaluate what we need to do to improve this, and then we'll come forward with a plan on how we're actually going to get better. So when we take a standardized process like this performance model, and then we apply it to how we're doing on the fireground, it becomes a very, very transparent system and allows us to be able to better identify issues, correct them, and know and understand who's going to fix it, and not allowing things to slip through the cracks or get to this, well, I thought you were going to take care of it. I didn't do anything. I thought it was you, or those things that get in the way of actually systems getting better. And that's a human issue. That isn't a system issue. Let's make this about the system. So that, I think, sets up kind of the conversation that Eric wants to have with everyone about how do we use the system. And this system is for IC number 1, IC number 2. It's for training chiefs. It's for everybody inside of an organization that needs and wants the ability to actually look at how we're doing and then manage that moving forward. So Eric, I'll turn it over to you to start talking maybe about the nuts and bolts of this.
One of the things we wanted to hit on just real quick, if we could, guys, is, and I don't know, Josh, if you've got a couple of success stories, but we have got some early success stories from folks using this. Do you have anything to share on how that success looked?
Yeah, so we've gotten a couple dozen probably, correspondence from different agencies about how they've used the AAR so far. So, one thing, a recent incident, we actually used some audio from it. The fire department did an AAR on it, and really most of what came out of it was reinforcing the behavior, like putting it out as an example. So they did an AAR. They scored well, on the whole thing. They were pretty happy with how everything went. They did address, a couple things that we can always improve somewhere, but they sent out the entire AAR to the entire fire department and said, here's an example of what we're really looking for. So they got to that point and did as well as they did because of all the things that Chris just talked about. And then they used this AAR program in a very standard way to evaluate a very standard system and say, hey, this is what we're really looking for. So it just reinforces, that action or that behavior. And then several agencies, thought they were doing really well in one area. And then early on, I remember Eric and I got some phone calls and people were like, we got like a 58, like we suck. And it's like, well, let us take a look at it. And, when they looked at it, they really, what it came full circle about was they hadn't done a very good job putting out the expectation, having an SOP on this is what we're going to do, and then focusing training. It was more of a say what I told you to say thing than it was a training and a why piece. So they used this tool to say, we need to fix that. We need to fix that internally. And what it came down to was not really a people problem as much as it was a system problem of how they were training the people. And maybe they were making some, they had some expectations, but they were not fulfilling the piece of making sure that everybody was really, on the same page. And then on the flip of that, organizations, that thought they weren't doing so well, and really some follow-up pieces, some follow-up report and 360 pieces where they were actually doing very well with it. So it's been out for like 3 months now, and organizations are using it more and more. And we've had plenty of organizations respond and, give us their success stories and give us the, wow, this caused us to have to do some work because we've identified some things that we maybe weren't doing so well. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but none of the cases were like, if they didn't plug it into the system, they probably would have never looked at any of it because nobody got hurt. The fires went out. It wasn't like we really screwed this up. It was how can we do better? And we should be looking at doing better all the time. So that's just a little snippet on that. And we're looking forward to at the conference having, no fire department names tied to it in any way, shape, or form, but being able to roll out, a pretty big data set of, this is what the system has done over the last year. So.
Nice. I know I've been personally involved with a couple of success stories with actually using the system and driving that continuous improvement. So it's a great tool for that. All right, switching gears now, we'll bounce over to Eric, and Eric is going to go page by page and go through the system. At any time, if you've got a question on what Eric is talking about, please put it into your text box and we'll try to get to it. So over to you, Eric.
All right, perfect. Appreciate everybody taking some time out of their day today to look at this after action. So this came up because we were getting calls from departments of how to best use this program. So today the goal is to figure out the nuts and bolts of this program. It can do a lot of things for your organization if you know how to input. So as we go through this, please ask your questions if you have one, so we don't have to go back and try to figure out exactly what you're talking about. So if JV pops up on the screen, there's a question that we want to answer to help you guys. That's what we're going to do during this webinar. So moving forward here, I hope everybody can see my screen. So where is the after action? It's for all the instructors, should have it down here on the left-hand side. You're going to see incident reporting. You can see I've got 3 tabs here. Don't pay attention to the report designer because that's where we make the program in. But you're going to have incident reporting and you're going to have performance review. Incident reporting is where you're going to actually see your department's data for the calls that they've inputted there. And then you're going to see performance review. This is something that's in the works for the next webinar, which is our data mining. It is an awesome program. I am super excited with how that's coming along. It's going to have a lot of drill down dial gauges to get you right to the example. So I encourage everybody to come back for the 3rd webinar when we start mining the data out of the program. That's where we're going to do it at. So if you start to see this on your dashboard there, it's not fully up and running yet as we're still tweaking the final version of it. So today we're going to talk about the incident reporting. When you click on that, this is going to be your dashboard page. These are all the calls that have been inputted for your organization. An ID number, just a generic number within Blue Card. So if you have a problem with a call and we need to research something, you can give us this ID number and it'll take us right to the call that you're referring to. Obviously, your fire department name, your incident number. So whatever the incident number is for your organization, that's going to be there. The type of event that it is. Remember that we talked about you can use these for live events, which is obviously working fires or alarm drops or whatever you're going to use it for out in the field. You can use this on the drill ground. You can use this in the CTC. So different types of events should score different. And we hope that if you do an event, let's just say in your command training center, and you record it and you put it through here and you're at 100%, you go to the drill ground, you implement what you learned in the controlled setting at the training center, you might be at a 98%. But if you go to the field and you drop down to say 85%, there's a disconnect somewhere that we need to start to train on. So there's different type of events that you can get different data for within your organization. Obviously the address, overall score. So this is what the overall rating is for that incident, the date, when it was last touched or revised, and then this finalize button. Right here, you can see green and red marks. Finalize means that it's done and it cannot be changed after that. You can see the ones in red are still in progress that people are working on. We put this in there for a couple reasons, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. But from an organizational standpoint, training chief, off chiefs would be able to get in here and look and see who's doing what and how many have we completed that we can send out to organization. So that's why that's there. Real quick, one of the suggestions that we had from one of our folks was if you're a training chief or ops chief and you're not an instructor, you're not going to see this after action reporting page. So what we've created is a way for those executive staff members to check on their organization to see if they're using this appropriately. Call the office, talk to Jen and Brandy. They'll get you some access to it. And as that admin chief or executive staff, you'll be able to see what's going on, but you're not going to be able to tweak or change any of the information that's being inputted. But we wanted to give you access to it so you could at least see the program, but you just can't make changes. So give the office a call. We'll get you access to that so you can monitor your performance in your organization. Moving over here to the right side. So if you click here, you'll see a pencil. That's where we're going to make any changes within the program. That's where you're going to input all the information. You're going to see this little tripod TV screen right here. This is called presenter mode. When you click on that, that is going to take it out and put it into a presenter mode. The best way to look at that is like a PowerPoint format. If I'm going to go to the station or deliver training to my organization, I'm going to use the presenter mode to do that. And it's just going to be like a PowerPoint presentation. Next to that is a little email. You can email this form. If I click on it, it's going to email it to whoever I want to send it to from my organization or outside of the organization. You can type in their email address. You can type in a note, great job. You can put any notes you want in there, and this is what gets emailed to them. When it comes to your email, it's going to come in a form just like this, and there's a link here that you're going to click, and it's going to bring it to that presenter mode for your folks to review and to see. One of the safety features that we have on here is that when you email this out to anybody, the link is only good for 30 days. And we did that so we had some control over it. So if you send this out to your organization or say a mutual aid or automatic aid department, it's good for 30 days for that link to work. If you want it for longer than that, you just have to resend it out after that as many times as you would like, but it resets it at 30 days. That way there's some security features to it that it's not out there forever to help protect some of your departments. And then we have a trash can. If you want to get rid of it, you can get rid of it. One thing to note also up here on the right-hand side, there's a 1-year running calendar to see your calls. So here's our calls for the last year that had been inputted. If I take it back to 23, you're going to see an additional call pop up. So remember up here on this date, it's a 1-year rolling calendar. You can change the date to get more data for your organization of what you want. So now this is a dashboard page. Everything we just talked about comes from inputting a call. So first thing we'll do is we'll just look and talk about some of the pages and the features that it has. So I'm going to click the little pencil here. It brings us into a page. The first page we come to is the incident page. Now, I want to let you guys know that everywhere you see this tutorial video, there's a short tutorial video on what the page is or how to fill it out. That goes for each of the pages that you do. We call them reports. Or if you're clipping the audio right here, click this button, go ahead and listen to that audio. And there's some tips and tricks in there to help you get through the page or get through splicing the audio as you go through. Also, anywhere in the program that you see a little question mark right here, if you hover over it, it kind of tells you what it is or what you can do to splice the audio. So if you need a quick reminder on some of the shortcut keys, you can highlight over that right there and read that, and that kind of gives you a little insight to what it is. Or you can listen to the tutorial video and get the full, this one I think is 8 minutes long, where normally these are just a few short minutes talking about the page. You'll notice right up here, there's a finalize report button. It's in 2 places here and also right here. So what does the finalize button do? It locks it out so no one can come in here and mess with it after the person that creates it and uses the program can change any of the information. The only person that can unfinalize a report is the person that created it. So if you look up here, I last touched this report yesterday at 9:33 a.m. by myself, but it was also created by me. So because I created it, anybody can finalize the report, but only the creator of the report can unfinalize it. Again, that was put in there as a safety mechanism. So people did really good, and our buddies on C-shifts want to change the thing. So they come in here and they change everything and then finalize it. We don't want that to be able to happen. So once it's finalized, we want it to be locked down, and only the person who created it can unfinalize it, make a change, and then they have to finalize it again. That way nobody can mess with it. Moving on, we talked about the incident number, date. I think that's self-explanatory. We talked about the event type. If you hit a drop down, there's some other things that you can use. We also in there, one thing we haven't had is an assessment center. So if your expectation for your department is that you're going to use this command system, we put everybody through the training on it, and then we have testing time coming up. You might be able to use this program in a testing setting to evaluate what was communicated during their assessment center. So again, there's different things here that you can use this program for. And if you want the data out of just one, make sure you choose the right event so that data kind of groups together and you can start to get some trending on what you have. You can come in down here into the dispatch information or department information, different battalions that you have in your organization, different shifts, whatever you would call them. You can change and edit those. Your response type. So whatever your initial response are called in your region, you're going to put this in there, and then you can come through and select that what it is. Now you'll see an edit option button here. You can come in here and change and put what your battalions are within your department, whatever you call them. That's your department. Once you put them into the system, they will be there for everybody down the line to utilize. So once it's done in the system, you don't have to do this for every call. You just select the drop-down box and you can get that information as you move along. So anywhere you see an edit option is something that you need to customize to your organization. The responding units, this is off of the first alarm for us. So this call on Sunrise Avenue, it was a live fire event. It was in Battalion 1 on A shift. It came in as a high level response for us. That's a part of our response package, is a high level. And these are the responding units. You would type those in. You come down here to building type. We've put in the major building types that you would run on a fire. We try to put in there an other box in all places that you might have one of those odd buildings or something specific to your area or region. So you can click other and use that box for whatever you would need to dictate the right building type. And then you can enter in here. This is a free text box for any special building information that you want to talk about based on that fire. So let's stop there for a second, and we're going to talk about why is all this information so far so important. It's important because this is where we start to get the data to be able to get the information from you. So the next webinar is going to be interpreting and looking at all the data that's collected. So you want to look at fire reports for Battalion 1 on A shift. We'll have a way that you can search that and you pull up all those fires and reports and you see how is Battalion 1 on A shift doing, or Battalion 10, or Battalion 1 on A shift versus Battalion 1 C shift. You can look at them and see how they're doing and start to compare the data just for your folks. Or you want to just see for us, which is a high level response versus a medium, a low level response. Based on the information that you put in, this is all going to be searchable information coming in. Keep moving on there. We look at the dispatch information. The dispatch information is a free text box that you'll be able to type in anything that is said over the initial dispatch. So whatever is said over the radio, whatever the notes are on your MCT, or however you guys get information about the call, you can type those in so it starts to build out the type of fire that you're responding to and the information that people have. Moving on down here, you're going to see a couple boxes that are always on every incident page as you begin. It's an SOP, SOG guideline fire report page. This is a PDF format box that you can upload really any document that you want to it. If you have an SOP or an SOG or a fire guideline that you want your folks to review based on this type of a fire, go ahead and upload it right there. And now you can refer back to it and it kind of updates your folks on, hey, let's talk about this, but here's a place to reference it also. If you want to put the fire report in there from your reporting system, you have the ability to do that. This box is there for you to utilize kind of however you would like to drive home a point or refresh somebody's memory on anything, SOP, SOG, guideline, fire report, whatever you want to put in there. And again, you just upload that and it has to be in a PDF form. CAD dispatch notes. There you go. So we have a system that we can print this out. It tells us all the information, the times, the units when they went en route, the notes from dispatch and anything else, and then a bunch of CAD information down below. Again, if you want to refer back to it and see how long did it take somebody to get on scene, here's an opportunity for you to do that. Again, you upload that in a PDF form. When you come over here to tracking worksheet, obviously, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but here's an example of a tracking worksheet. Whatever you use, if you use tablet command, you use any kind of electronic device, there's an export function that can go along with it. You can export that, make sure it's in a PDF form, and you can upload that on here to be able to view for your people. So if you're looking at getting standardized tracking within your department or your region, this is a good way to pull this up and say, hey, this is what the IC has done thus far. Can anybody read his chicken scratch? It's probably an important feature that if we're going to have people help you out inside of the SUV, that everybody's kind of tracking in the same function or same format and being able to read it. When I clicked up here, we're going to talk about this later, this SOP. Here's our department's SOP on accountability, and it explains everything in detail for what it is. So here's an SOP that we uploaded that we're going to talk about in just a second, but you can see how useful this would be as you start to talk about maybe a way that we can improve what we're doing on the fire ground. You can attach it there. All right, moving on here, 911 call audio. This is a box here, this 911 audio. If your department, usually what we figured out does audio in one of two ways. Some departments separate the 911 caller from the fireground or TAC channel audio. If your department does that, you can splice or take out just the 911 audio from the caller and you can put it in this file right here. If your department has the 911 caller and the Fireground channel all in one, you have to use down below here for the audio. So if you have two different files, you have two different places that you're more than welcome to put it in, depending on how you get the audio for your department. And if you push play, that will obviously play the audio when it's there. One of the things that some people get a little out of shape about, when you choose a file, it's going to say no file selected here. As you can see right here, we have dispatch audio in there because there's these pink squiggly lines. You can see right here that there's a timer, which tells us there is some audio uploaded, just for an example. We can't change that because of a technical reason, but we are working on something else to be able to help with that. But for the time being, you're going to see no selected file, but you will see these squiggly lines that indicate your file is selected. Remember that there's two ways to do audio. There's a WAV file and an MP3 file. We've worked a lot with the programmer on being able to get WAV files uploaded. Some departments have success in it, some do not. WAV is a unique file that creates some challenges. If you're not having success uploading a WAV file into the program, we recommend that you convert it to an MP3. MP3 files are much more friendlier and easier to use. So we recommend to everybody use an MP3 file. If you're not able to do that, upload a WAV file, make sure you convert it to an MP3 file. That is the easiest way to do it. We've had quite a few calls on people trying to upload audio and it not working. Typically what we found out is some departments have their computer system locked down, say with SharePoint or some other type of program that you're using that doesn't allow you to upload that audio. So if you have problems with it, put it onto your desktop and then upload it from there. And we usually have had success doing that. So what I would recommend to everybody is take the time to listen to the tutorial on splicing the audio, as it is with technology. Anytime that you first use anything, it's a little frustrating, or can be at times. It's going to take a little bit of time to utilize it and get used to it. But once you do, it's a very simple program. With a few clicks of the button, you'll be able to start splicing the audio. Remember that you have these question marks there that help explain the shortcuts that will tell you what the tips and tricks are for that. Notice down here that you have a zoom button. You can zoom in or out. Usually when I'm splicing audio, I like to have it about right there because I can clip my audio right in between breaks in the traffic. But people can use this at any way that they want, but you want to be able to start and stop that audio at a precise time. So somewhere in this line, or maybe even a little in, just a little farther, will make it easier to splice that audio traffic. One of the things that you can do in this program is you can have two clips on one audio. So here's clip one. If I got interrupted because somebody interrupted the order model, or let's just say in the transfer of command, I talked to IC number one, and then some traffic had to be done from other units, and then I went back to dispatch and finished up my transfer of command. You can have two audio clips or more audio clips in the same file right here. You just would simply come over to this area, clip a new section, and you can have two clips, and it would play right back to back to get that full, say, transfer of command when that happens. Splicing the audio. Let's see. One of the other things that you need to know is that you can move it right here. So if I clip this audio and I listen back to it, I zoom in, I'm like, oh, you know what? I need to extend it out a little bit. I stopped it too early. All you have to do is just take this and drag it to where you want it to go, and you can drop it, and now you have that extra radio traffic in there. So I'll move it back to where I want, or if you went too far, you can just manipulate it just by dragging it forward or backwards where you want to go. This will take you through the audio all the way through the call. When you're looking at splicing audio, one of the tips or tricks I'll tell you is that right here I'm at 30 seconds. When I go to the next radio traffic, I will come and start at 30 to start clipping my next radio traffic. So that's one of the tips that I would tell you, is that just keep an eye on this down here for where you are within your call, and that will help you know where to start on my next radio transmission when I see that number played there. Again, we try to explain most of this in this tutorial. If you have trouble or questions on the audio clipping, please give us a call. We'll walk you through it. Every time so far, it's just been a kind of a security feature on the person's computer of why it's not uploading, whether it's the WAV file or a security setting. Make sure you convert it, put it onto your desktop, and we've had success from there. Next thing you'll see here is a place for a pre-arrival video. If you have pre-arrival video, feel free to put it in here, whether that's some dash camera from incoming units. We had one department to have drone footage prior to the fire department arriving from a neighbor that was in the area and had the drone out. So you can clip that and put it in here so people can see what happened before you arrived on the fire. I've been on a couple fires where we had bystanders and neighbors taking video before the fire department arrived, and then we get that from them, and you're able to see it of what the conditions were before the fire department arrived. So if you have that video, you put it in here. You just make a link and paste it in there. Know that Blue Card does not keep any of the video on file. This is in a shared Dropbox of my personal email or account. We copy and paste that, and then you're the one that's able to access it. So all of the video stays on your server or your Dropbox or wherever you keep it at within your organization. The next thing you can do is upload files. Right now you can upload 6 photos. That helps any pictures you want, whether that's from Google Maps, whether that's from the investigators, whatever pictures you want, you're able to upload those right here. So today we're talking about a fire on Sunrise Avenue. It was right here. This is just off Google Maps. So you could kind of see we parked right here in the street, and this upper left-hand apartment right here where my mouse is was the apartment that was on fire. So this will help illustrate the scene and kind of some pictures of what we were dealing with of the layout of the structure. So again, looking at it from right here, this is where the fire was, the first apartment, and this standalone apartment building that's in a complex. Here's something off Google Maps. Again, we're talking about this end unit right here. So there's a lot of things that you can do, uploading video, uploading pictures, and uploading the audio to help illustrate what were we going to, what was this call all about? What were we going to see in the incident? That pretty much wraps up the incident page. Now, for every call that you do, you're going to want to do, or you have to do this incident page, because this is where we get all the data from. Now, remember in the first webinar, we talked about you don't have to do the whole fire. If your department or organization is working on initial radar reports and follow-up reports, that's what you're focused on this quarter, then all you need to do is do the incident page, this right here, and do the initial radar report and the follow-up page. If that's what you're evaluating, do it frequently. Remember that the more you do this, the better off we will be on all of our everyday fires. And then when we have those complicated fires, or those one-off fires, or those ones that just kick our butt, everything will be in place, and we'll hopefully have a different outcome than just waiting to do an after action on those fires that are critical or something doesn't go good. So are there any questions before we move on in the incident page? Anything coming in, JV?
Not appear that we have any questions at this time.
All right, well, we'll keep moving forward. But guys, if you have questions, something doesn't make sense that I say, please ask, because we want you to leave here with a good understanding of the system and what it can do for your organization. So because this is an incident, everything starts off with initial radar report. This is the first page. Is going to get done on every report. To do this, before I move on here, when you click on here, nothing is going to be here except the incident page. So the first thing you have to do is choose a report. I come down to the bottom here, and you're going to see add new report. When I click on that, it's going to give me some choices. When I click on the drop-down box, these are all the components of what we teach in Blue Card and what your organization does, from initial radar report to strategic shifts, priority traffic, CAN reporting, assigning divisions, maydays. But what I want you to look at is there's different types of priority traffic, roof reports, and status changes. So depending on what that radio report is that you're evaluating, you're going to want to make sure that you choose the right one, because there's different things that should be communicated or thought about when you find, let's just say priority traffic, conditions rapidly change, or we need resources. You either have fire in a concealed space, fire in the attic, or you find a victim. There's different things that hopefully in your organization that you've outlined for your people that, hey, when we find a victim, we want to communicate these things to have the best success for not only us, but for that victim that we just found. So you would choose the report that radio traffic should be. And all of the grading criteria that's in here is everything based on the Blue Card system that you guys have been trained on. It is all right here. So for this one, obviously we would choose the initial radar report, and we'll look at that. So when it comes up, this audio will be here. Once you upload the audio on the incident page right here, you don't have to touch it again in the system. Every time you choose a new report, that audio is going to be there. You can see right here on this box, there's a reference or description page. I recommend that you put the engine right here, and that's going to show up over here on the left-hand side of the page for whatever it is. So if I'm looking at who gave the initial radar report, it's going to be engine 4. Who did I assign next? It was rescue 204, then rescue 4, engine 8. Engine 4 did a follow-up report. So whatever the reference is, I recommend putting the apparatus in there just so you can see it on the left-hand side of the screen if you're of what you're looking at. So the same way that you splice the incident audio in the beginning, you do the same thing here for the initial radar report. Again, there's a tutorial video here on the right that talks about the initial report page, but also clipping the audio. So this short clip right here is the 30-second initial radar report, 45-second of showing up on scene. So I'll play that for a second just so you see what that audio is. All right. Hopefully you guys could hear that online. So that's the initial radar report. That is what was communicated over the radio. Good or bad or indifferent, that's what was said over the radio. Hopefully that matches the training that was provided. Hopefully that matches the expectation that was set by the department. So when we go down that line, we're on the third step. Now let's evaluate really how we did on that audio. So basically you're going to come down here and you're going to start filling in the boxes. You're going to see some things on here that are not graded. Not graded means we want to get that information for knowledge, but it's not part of the system. So who gave the initial radar report? A captain. You can see here all the different positions, whether you're acting or not, and you can type in some notes in the free form text box down below. But this starts to tell you who's actually communicating on the radio and maybe where do we need to get a little bit better or put some more time in, because we have a lot of acting captains or write-up captains performing initial radar reports, and we're not really hitting the mark. Let's practice a little bit. Down here, you're going to see the name of the person giving the radio report. This is important because this will be information that you can pull out of the system and mainly for research purposes. Remember, in the research process, you need to be IC1, IC2 on all 5 building types. This gives you the ability to pull that data. And if I've given an initial radar report on an apartment, that will count for our research. Also, if you're on probation, for example, maybe you want to see how your probationary officer is doing, you can query their name and you'll be able to pull up all of the traffic that has been put through the AR system and see how they're doing. You can put somebody's name there. You can put somebody's employee number, any identification. Just make sure it's the same for your whole organization. If you're going to put just last names, then just put last name. Or if you're going to put their full name, it has to be the same throughout the program for everyone that's doing that. So you'll be able to get the information out when you're searching it, because it is a free text box. As you go through the program, you'll see things that are not graded and graded. Red, yellow, and green. I hope everybody understands what red, yellow, and green is, but green, good, red, bad, yellow is, hey, you did it, but maybe we can get better. Maybe something was very unclear in what you said. Maybe it was something you only said half of what you should have communicated. Use some caution, man. You did good, but we can maybe do a little bit better based off of what the expectation is. So right here, it's yellow. I cleared the channel, but did not preface the radio traffic. So make sure that you're calling dispatch from engine 4 with initial radar report. when we contact them to clear the channel initially. So that was one thing. You did half of it, but hey, just good job. But man, remember to preface the radio traffic. As you move down here, you can see things that you hit. These are all check down boxes that you'll select. 2-story apartment. If you have something that you want to type in notes, you got free text box. Down here, you can select multiple things. We had a smoke showing. We had a working fire. Did you communicate when we talk about the problem and the description on what was said? Did you do a side and a floor of where it is? So you can type in notes of what was said, good or bad, and you can see at a glance of things that went good and things that went bad for this call. When you get down to the end of it, you have an area that you can upload another video. Remember, you would just keep this on your computer, your system, and provide a link, and then that would turn red, and you would click on that, and you could see the conditions when that first arriving officer shows up of what they actually had. So at a glance here, if you're reviewing this, you will see good, bad, and use some caution. Green, yellow, and red. That's what you're looking for, all based off of right here, this communication. So if I was going to evaluate this, first thing I'm going to do is come up here and clip the audio, the short second. I'm going to push play, and then I'm going to go down the list as it's playing, evaluating and typing in what they said. There is a spot on here to click that it does it in loop. So I suggest as you're evaluating it, you double click on here, and that will just put it in loop mode. So it just plays over and over and over until I get done with this report. I think it's important that if you're going to write some notes in there, you write exactly what was said on the radio, because you know what's the first thing going to say? Hey, you said this. First thing they're going to say is, I didn't say that. All right, let's listen to the audio and we'll see what you really said. So make sure that if you're going to write things, make sure it's correct and almost word for word from the audio, so it's correct. So as we looked at this, a very standard initial radio report for your organization. You can see we move into assigning units. So I would come down here, I would click add new report. I'm going to choose unit assignment, Rescue 204. Here's my task location objective for Rescue 204. And again, I grade it based on the standard that we've all been trained on. You're going to see some different things down here. Was the order model used correctly? And you're going to start to see, did a low air alarm sound during transmission? So we want to make sure that we're evaluating the order model correctly, and we're starting to monitor these air supplies. If I toggle switch this, it turns it to red, and it will start to change the grade based on what was selected by that person. We will go, so everything is pretty much the same. Once you've seen all of these reports, they're laid out in a very similar fashion for each of those communication portions that we talked about, or that we all learn about for Blue Card. Now we evaluate this from an IC1 and an IC2 perspective. So there are things, let's say at the transfer of command, we're talking about IC number 2. So a transfer of command, this was done by Battalion 1. So you see it over here on the left. Here's the command transfer, that short audio clip of what it is. And by quickly looking at this, you can see some things that we might need to improve on this transfer of command. As you scroll down, you're going to see some green, you're going to see some red. And unfortunately on this one, we didn't go back to dispatch and confirm let them know that Battalion 1 was assuming command. We didn't confirm the strategy, and we didn't do a resource determination. We did use some of these things, which was awesome. But you can see at a glance what was forgotten. That was that second part of the command transfer where we didn't go through command. Now, if you push play here, and for time-wise, we won't go through it, but you'll hear that whole command transfer where it didn't happen. And I actually played it a little bit long so you could see that it was just forgotten with that radio traffic. So again, when we type in the name of IC number 2, you put that person's name in there. That way, for tracking purposes of research, you'll be able to see who was the battalion chief that did that transfer of command, so you can count it or not count it for their research process as they do that. I talked earlier about a follow-up report, and I talked about that SOP that we wanted to put in on the first page. Remember, I told you it was a SOP on accountability. When you look at the follow-up report, we got a 75%. Now, for your organization, you got to figure out if that's good or bad based on the expectation and training. For us, We don't communicate basements, although we should. We have a lot of basements in the area. That's going to be department specific on whether you give yourself a grade or not there. But one thing is the accountability location. So I typed in here that we have a policy, but it's not followed by any crews. Now you can sit here if I tell you that, and you can argue with me what the policy is, but if you come back to this main page, you'll know right here, here's the policy, and you can review it with your folks, and you start to find out whether it's a training issue or it's a system issue. Unfortunately, on this one, it's not it's a training issue because we have a policy says we should do it. Unfortunately, didn't follow it. So that's where it's nice to have that information there so you can quickly review it. And now the person that you're talking to this about can't argue with you because here's the facts. You either said it or you didn't say it. We either have a policy on it or we don't have a policy on it. Now we can start to really try to make change in our organization for doing what's right. The last thing I'll touch on, and we'll just show you a couple other reports, is if your department sets the expectation, and let's just say you live in an area that has no basements whatsoever. If you have no basements and you don't even talk about basements in your area for some reason, then you can't expect your people to communicate a basement because the expectation is you don't have them. So we don't train on them. You don't train on them at all. So when we monitor progress, you're going to have to come in here and just communicate yes and give them a successful grade because they met the expectation. We didn't expect you to do that. But if you have basements in your area and you teach your folks about them and you want them to communicate it, then you have to be real with your people that there was not one present and you need to give them the correct grade. But remember that in this system, it is what we teach in Blue Card. And if you deviate from that, I want you to do a couple things. I want you to challenge and validate. Why are you allowing, if you live in for example, if you live in a place that has basements, but there's not a lot of them, what is the expectation or what have you trained your folks to do? Just because you haven't trained them and you have to give them a green because that's the fair grade to give them, that doesn't mean that it's the right thing. You may be looking at this and going, you know what, we need to change that because we actually have basements in our area. So the program is set up for you as the evaluator to choose whether you should give them a green or a red based on the expectation. But just remember that that doesn't give you the right to change the system just because you haven't trained on it. Maybe you need to change the way you're training because I'm here to tell you that the system that you see written down here is based on best practice, line of duty deaths, NFPA, all of those things that we should be following, this system is based around. So I hope that makes sense and how to utilize the system. We want you to utilize it. We don't want to handcuff you in having to do it this way or that way, but be truthful with your folks and your organization if you're doing the right thing. We're running a little short on time, but a couple other things that you can that I'd like to point out here is every report is here. You need to change the right one. When you communicate finding a victim, you can see that the audio popped up here. And then you're going to start filling this out as you're listening to that short audio clip of what was communicated. And there are some things in here. Are you setting your call up right? We talk about, are you do everything right when something goes wrong? We have tried to identify what that everything right looks like is, do you have crews on deck? And you will choose if you have crews on deck. Are they treating them and supported by the people on deck? So everything in here is to help you identify what that everything is right when something goes wrong mindset. It's all in this system to be able to utilize. Last report I'll show you is this lessons learned. This came from a recommendation from one of our folks about we need a place in here just to be able to free text some information. So we've created a lessons learned box that you can free type in any lessons learned, things that you want to talk about in your organization here. So you can see here, when you enlarge this, here's some lessons learned from this fire that was evaluated. There are 5 things. It's like, hey, here are some key takeaways that we're able just to free text in there for your folks to take a look at. So take advantage of this lessons learned. That was one of the biggest things. We've got a lot of great feedback that people can just type in what they need there to kind of to drive home some points or lessons within their organization. So we talked about this pencil real quick. We've talked about the reports and how to put in there, hopefully some tips and tricks and how to use it, but let me show you the presenter mode. This is that PowerPoint mode that we were talking about earlier. You can't select anything. So if I'm going to go around and do some training within the department, at the TC, wherever it is, I'm going to use the presenter mode because it's just the facts of what happened. I can still open up the SOPs and all the videos that go along with it. You'll see over here on the left side, it starts to turn things green and yellow and red. So you can quickly identify if I want to touch on a couple good things, but let's talk about the status change. Oh man, it wasn't really good. Let's listen to this audio. You'll push play, and then you can follow along here with what was said or not said when you're trying to evaluate and change or improve performance on the fire ground. It's very easy to identify that using this model when you're listening to the audio. When you talk about the transfer of command, here's a video. Here's what was happening on this incident during the transfer of command. So it's just a short helmet cam video. I don't need to watch a video, but this is what was happening during the transfer command during this incident. If your department uses video, it's a great tool. We're lucky enough to utilize it at times. And based on the helmet cam footage, 2 different fires recently, the chief mentioned both times, man, you had a lot of fire before we showed up. I didn't realize that. Well, that's because we were doing everything right, but it helps paint that picture of what we were seeing and the actions that we were doing on the fire ground and that decision-making process of what was going on. So hopefully your department's utilizing video to help with that, because it's a great learning tool of what, people are going through on the fire ground as we're communicating and making decisions on there. That will definitely help. So this is the presenter mode. It's all there. You can click on different reports, if you will, and be able to review this with your folks. I think that is the nuts and bolts that we have. There's a lot of little tools in there as you start to fill out these reports that they ask questions, and you might ask yourself at different points, why are they asking this? Why are they asking that? And it's all to provide your organization data on maybe where you can improve or things that you're really doing well. For example, I'll just talk about division bosses real quick. I get it. Not every department has, aides or fits, but, we're going to ask questions in there like who assigned them? What level was their training? Did you have a paired up team? If you did have a paired up team, who was that paired up? What level of training did that paired up person have? That way for your organization, you might start to dictate your training a little bit because now you have the data to actually make decisions. We said it on the first webinar, but I think it's the days of us just coming in and saying, I think we did really good on a fire, or I think we need to improve in this area because that's what I think. Those days are over. We should be having the data-driven training to truly improve and reinforce that good behavior, but improve the performance on areas that we know with the data that we have. So I hope you guys utilize it. Remember, you don't have to utilize the whole program. You can do just certain portions of it. It does not matter what you do, but whatever you do in your organization, do this program frequently. Use it on those everyday fires so you can change the behavior within your organization for the better. You will start to find success when people start seeing how they're actually performing on the fire ground.
Before we conclude today, does Josh or Chris have any comments as we're doing this live?
I've been in and around and kind of helped support Eric in this. But when you sit and you look at the kind of the magnitude of the information that's available here and the ability to use it as simply as you want to, and the ability to use it as complexly as you want to, and get into detail and get into figuring out why we're making decisions, like it's more impressive every time I see it. So I appreciate the work that Eric's put into this. And then I'm really, really excited to see how fire departments are going to use this, because I have a feeling our users, the folks that are, that manage us every day are going to figure out things that make this better, and getting that input into the system is a really cool loop that I'm looking forward to. I want to see this in a year. I want to see, when we start talking about things more seriously, other besides just using the system. So thanks for all the work, Eric, and I'm really excited to see what this is going to do.
Yeah, this whole thing, I think a lot of the tools that we're planning to push out, and we've already pushed out, are for you all to use to, refine and polish your skills. So the CE that we sent out already in January, the sets and reps that we sent out kind of align with how do we continue to improve, and trying to give you tools to jump into like a spot where you might be having a challenge, so you can, refine those skills. And I'll tell you that you guys that are on here are aware there was I think it was 3-alarm fire in a 4-story wood frame apartment building. It did not go great. I think 13 different fire departments there from a bunch of suburban places, and there was, like every fire, everybody had something to say about it. And locally we plugged it into this after action and got almost all the fire departments that were there to sit down, and after it was all said and done, they were all like, yeah, we're very clear on why that went the way that it did now. And a lot of it's that a bunch of different fire departments, and they don't all necessarily have the same expectations. So it was a great tool for that. So large fire departments, small fire departments, you do it by yourself, you do it with other people, whatever. Yeah, I think it's a great tool, and we're going to continue to refine it. And I'm looking forward to the next webinar with the data, because that's where we can really start to point at what have we entered and what's the outcome on the other side of it. Now, what do we do with that?
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate everybody taking the time out of their day today to listen to this webinar. I hope that you got something out of it and how to use the program for your organization. But I'd like to thank everybody that helped bring this to light. There was a small test group and a large test group of departments that took the time and helped us refine it and change it. And we're still doing that today. So if you're using the program and you come across something that just isn't right, or we're missing something like JV found for us last week, a couple weeks ago with Division Ops, please let us know your suggestions. I'm looking at a page on a to-do list, and we still have a few things that are on there that we think are going to be good additions. We just haven't got to it or haven't figured out how to best utilize it. So trust us. Please send us some emails with your input. We will do our best to see if it fits into the system and it's a benefit to make this program better. So thank you for everybody that's played with it and sent those emails in. Please keep doing that. So I look forward to the next webinar, which is how can you manage your Fireground command system if you can't measure it? So looking forward to the mining the data part. That is, I am quite happy with how that's turning out. And I think that is going to be a huge bonus to the fire service and driving our training and truly taking care of our folks in the Fireground.
And that next webinar will be March 11th at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Everyone will get an email inviting you to that, so you can sign up if you signed up for this one. In addition, we'll have that posted in the B-Shifter Buck Slip every Tuesday and give you some other reminders via email. So pass the word, talk to instructors within your organization. This program is available for the instructors. So not all ICs within your organization will have access to it, but to be able to fully utilize all the tools that are given to you with the Blue Card program, make sure your instructors are on board and just not 1 or 2 people within your organization. Also, every time we do one of these, a video will be sent to you following the webinar. So we record it, we send you a link to the video, and we'll also have this posted on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, type in B-Shifter and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. We post all kinds of training videos there in addition to the B-Shifter podcast and other audio that we might get. So whenever something interesting is going on, we'll put it up on YouTube. So it's a good reason to subscribe to the B-Shifter YouTube channel so you don't miss anything that we are doing. Well, gentlemen, nice job today. It was great being with everyone. It was great in the comment section, seeing so many people check in and not really any questions, but a lot of appreciation for the program. And it seems like you're explaining it very well, Eric. So thank you very much for being the main guy on this and getting it in front of everyone and also answering all the questions so eloquently, because I think it really speaks to that's not a lot of questions there because we have laid it out. But looking forward to the data mining on March 11th. We'll see everyone then. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for your time.